Hello guys, this is Horrible Movies and I'm ranking all the Tardis, so here we go, right now. And this is the 11B Tardis, and the things that I don't like about it. The blue in the middle with the column, I don't like that because it really hurts my eyes, as well as the Tardis being mostly metallic. It also is just very bland, and it also feels just very cold. I know what they're going for is that the Doctor is more serious, but this is just very bland to look at, and every time I'm in here, I just want to get out. Well, in the scene. The random panels all around the TARDIS, I don't even know what they do. They're mostly untouched. They could just be turned into railings for most of it. And the chairs are a bit weird, how they don't have any cushioning. It's just like the rest of it, very cold looking. Um, they did add a lot of cool effects to it, like the rotating Gallifreyan symbols above the time rotor, and also the steam that occasionally comes up from the floor when something is going wrong. But other than that, this TARDIS is very bland, and the while the construction is mostly fluent and makes sense artistically, it just comes out being very bland and yeah, that's what I think about the 11B TARDIS. Not my favorite. That's why it's at the bottom. This is the first Doctor's TARDIS, and I don't blame it for being down at the bottom of the list, as it is like one of the first TARDIS. Well, it is the first TARDIS that ever appeared, and I just don't like the way it looks at all. But I don't blame it because it is the first of its kind, and some things that I don't like about it, that random light that's just, you don't even see it most of the time, but it is there. You can see it right in this picture. I don't like how the walls aren't actually like, it's just like a really weird looking wallpaper instead of a physical thing on the wall. The construction of the room, I don't like how the TARDIS isn't in the center, and I don't like how there's a random room that's covered in glass. I don't understand that. There's a ton of there's a clash of aesthetics here. There's really old looking chairs around, and then there's this sci-fi like thing on the ceiling, and the TARDIS console is over there. As well as that, the room is very square, and because the TARDIS console is the main focus of the room, and it's also off-centered, the room just seems weird because the TARDIS console isn't square. So when you put something um, hexagonal inside of something square, then it just becomes bad aesthetically. And here is the 12th Doctor's TARDIS. The reason it's higher up is because of the orange and the blackness. That takes away one of the cons that I had with the previous TARDIS because it is a lot easier to look at and a lot easier to feel like this room is a bit more comfortable. But all the same complaints apply here, that it's bland, and by this point, I was getting very tired of just looking at this very bland looking TARDIS. Um, so yeah, that is my complaint with this TARDIS. Yeah, I didn't really. I mean, it's the same exact TARDIS as before, so not much to say about it. This is obviously the third Doctor's TARDIS, and why I don't particularly like it compared to the other classic TARDISes is because they have these weird suction cup things on the walls. It looks like they've been swallowed by a giant squid or something. And also the rotary column being a really just disgusting looking green isn't helping at all. But other than that, it's pretty average and insignificant. But you know what? It functions, I suppose, except for those weird things on the walls. They could do without those. And the green color, I don't know, it really clashes with the rest of it, in my opinion. But you know what? Um, it's not that bad, so I'll give it a little bit of a pass. This is the fourth Doctor's TARDIS, and it's a huge improvement over the other TARDISes that have been listed, but still not the best classic TARDIS. It's got these chairs over there and the hat rack, or the hat hanger, or I don't even know what it's called, but uh, but those don't particularly clash because they're very small, and also I think they add a bit of charm because it's not like, oh yes, I've furnished this place. It's more like I've brought this in here so I can use it, and also I'm a bit quirky because I mix these two things. Like I've got a sci-fi spaceship, but I still have this hat rack. Um, the screen up on the wall is a very nice choice because the Doctor, it's kind of like a reveal thing, you know? If there's something outside, you want to know what it is, and then the screen goes up, that's very nice. That's a very nice like way of revealing things. The columns are kind of like a Roman thing, and I kind of like that. Um, and also the roundels, I think they're called, up on the walls. Those are a huge improvement because they seem to have a functionality now. It seems like they're lights, and also you can see on the show that they can store things. So they've given a purpose to those roundels on the walls. The Tardis console itself is not, it's not like the best compared to the later Tardises, but I think it serves its purpose. It doesn't stand out, and none of the colors on it are particularly ugly, so I think it does its job well. The Fifth Doctor's TARDIS is my favorite TARDIS out of all the classic TARDISes because I feel like it's more rounded, and the more circles you have, the better because it's just more of a natural shape than a square. And the hexagon shape also is good because it makes it feel more sci-fi. So it's kind of an in between a square and a circle, which is good. The time column and the not the time column, the time rotor, the time rotor in the middle is very good, and also they've got three monitors on the console itself, as well as having a monitor on the wall. That you might think that's overkill, but honestly, I think having those monitors is pretty helpful, just aesthetically, because it keeps it consistent. It's not like there's two monitors right next to each other and then there's no other monitors. There's a monitor in between each of the panels with a panel in between, like the ones with the monitors, which spaces them out evenly. And of course, we have the roundels on the walls, the functionality of them, which is good. I mentioned that before. The monitor up on the wall is also good. The Roman columns, I think, is a nice addition, as well as having the actual console being more rounded. The columns, that just makes the columns look better. And yeah, the the time rotor in the middle is also very good because um, it's got it's clear, um, and it's got a very intricate design that kind of it fits better than just some weird like I don't even know, like some weird bits of metal floating around like the fourth Doctor's, or not the fourth Doctor's, sorry, the first Doctor's. That's what I meant. I will admit that the amount of buttons is a bit overkill. You could have made with a more um, you could have made it feel like all the buttons do something instead of just throwing a load of buttons onto the console. But other than that, I think that this is the best. This is the best classic TARDIS in my opinion. Next up is the War Doctors, and this is kind of it's not a huge TARDIS. It's not like the main TARDIS. It was only in one episode, but I like how they combined both the classic and the new TARDIS. And I like how they made the lights on the actual console white, like the roundels on the walls. I don't think those roundels have any purpose, but they don't really need to. They're just there to symbolize the classic Tauruses, as well as the ground being more metallic instead of that kind of mesh that the Ninth Doctor's Taurus has. Um, it makes it more of a classic TARDIS. They've also added the giant, I don't even know what those called, buttresses. They've added those buttresses, but they're smaller. So like the classic TARDIS, this TARDIS is also smaller, and I think it serves its job pretty well. So that's why it's up here. The Eighth Doctor's TARDIS, well, I mean, I guess it's technically the Seventh Doctor's, but really it's just the Eighth Doctor's. The Eighth Doctor's TARDIS, it's pretty good. I would say that it's almost too big, but if we're just going off the actual TARDIS bit in the middle, it's pretty good. It's got the buttresses. It actually paved the way for many of the new TARDISes. Many of the new TARDISes are just based on the Eighth Doctor's TARDIS. So it's very, it's almost like the first of its kind in that department. So it kind of gets a bit of a pass on that. Um, and I would say that like I kind of like how it's wooden and it also has a library. It's kind of it fits how the Doctor is. Um, like you know his personality. So the only complaint I have is that it's way too big. You could have scaled it down a bit. Um, I know they had a ton of budget for this movie and they wanted to make something really fantastic, but this is, I mean, it's almost too fantastic. I think they could have made it a bit smaller, um, and so you wouldn't feel like you would get lost in this TARDIS, there's like too many details, like this like library bit, like so many chairs everywhere. I mean, I like the library aesthetic. I think it shows that the Doctor is kind of a like an intellectual type of guy, which is true. And so yeah, that it's very good. The amount of buttons is perfect. No over amount of buttons. There's not like too little amount of buttons. Good amount. It also has the monitor with the that's attached upward, which I think is good because if you pull it down, that's also a reveal. Like if you take the monitor and you pull it down to like have the audience see it, usually the monitor is used to reveal something, um, and that works perfectly. And there's no real place to put it up on to put the monitor up on the wall, so yeah, it's a good alternative as well as just being good all around. So that's my thoughts on the Eighth Doctors. This is the Ninth Doctors, but you know what? I kind of consider it the 10th Doctors because the 10th Doctor used it for longer. A lot of people don't like this one. I don't know. I like it a lot. I like it a lot. That's why it's my second favorite. I love the buttresses and I like the railing. I like what the thought process behind the design of this TARDIS was that the Doctor had been traveling for like so long that he's just been picking up little bips and bobs, random things like a car seat, and he's thrown them onto the console. So it's kind of like he built this TARDIS. It's not the most reliable TARDIS in the stories, and I think that fits its design. It looks kind of clunky. It looks like it's like if you had like the classic TARDISes are like if you had a very nice looking, just like kind of an average, like clean car, and then this is like a really old fancy car, but it's breaking down. That's what it reminds me of. And I like how they kept the buttress design when they were going into the new series, or not the buttress design, the roundel design. Sorry, but they made it more hexagonal. I don't know. I'm not sure if I like the over amount of roundels on the walls, but um, I'm not sure how they could have spread those out evenly enough to make them look good. But I do love the design of the buttresses. I think the buttresses are are just like a really nice thing. Like the Doctor hangs his coat on them. You know, he's got people lean on them. So I think they add a lot. And yeah, so That's my thoughts on the ninth and 10th Doctor's TARDIS. This is my favorite TARDIS, the 11th Doctor's TARDIS. A lot of people don't like this TARDIS. I don't know why. I think it's really great. Um, I think people might think it's a bit weird looking, and that the roundels are not spaced everywhere, and that like they've got this weird spider web thing on the floor. But to me, I like the warmness. I like how everything leads back to the console. Every stairway is leading back to that main console. So it's still centralized, even though you might think, oh, well, spatially it's over here, most of the space is over there. Actually, most of the staircases and everything is just pointing back towards it. So that kind of evens it out. It's kind of like the Eighth Doctors with the monitor that you can pull down. So that's a plus in my opinion. I really like how the TARDIS like is rebuilding itself, and so when it's rebuilding itself, it's grabbing things that it finds around Amy Pond's house, and so it's got like the faucets, and it's got like all these like things that you would find like in like a human's house, like a typewriter, and I really like that because it just it brings the Doctor like closer to humanity, which I think has been happening for a long time. Is that the Doctor has been getting more and more human. Um, what I like about it is mainly, well, of course, I like the warmness of it, and I like how it's very organic looking because the TARDIS. I don't know if you know this. It's not actually a machine. I don't know if the viewers of this know this, but the TARDIS is not a machine. It's actually an organism that the Gallifreyans would grow on Gallifrey. And yeah, so I mean, they engineered it, but it is an organism. So having this like organic looking design helps get that across, and I really like it. I also like the scale of it. It's huge. Like the set is huge, but I like how it paid at a new thing that it adds. Each TARDIS is like adding new things. Um, the stairway going down to the core of the TARDIS, not really the core, but kind of like that's where he fixes everything. You know, he's like sitting in this like kind of swing, and he's like doing screw. He has a screwdriver and he's fixing wires and things like that. I really like that. I also like the glass floor because it's kind of like if usually a Time Lord would travel with many Time Lords. So if one Time Lord is fixing from below, then the other one can see what the other Time Lord is doing and like instruct the Time Lord, that Time Lord who's fixing things. So I think that makes sense. And I also like how you can tell that all the stairways lead somewhere. You know, like that by now we know that the TARDIS is huge, and later on in the series, in the Doctor's wife, I think the episode is, Amy and Rory explore a ton of the TARDIS. Um, and you find out that there's like tons of rooms, like bedrooms and former TARDIS console rooms, and maybe like even the classic TARDIS console rooms are in there. But yeah, so there are no color, as well as that, there are no colors that are like that make your eyes bleed. You know, it's all very natural looking. Um, and that's like the key word is natural because that's basically what this TARDIS is all about is the whole organic and natural aesthetic, which that's my favorite. It's also got a bit of the wood thing in it, so that helps. Um, it's got the time rotor. It's pretty good. I don't like how there's one thing I don't like about it is that the time rotor only the bottom of it moves up and down, but the top just stays. And actually, it improves on something that the first Doctor's TARDIS had. You know how it has that giant light-looking thing in the back? They kind of connected the time rotor to that, so it feels Like, it's kind of I don't know, it's stabilizing weight and things like that. So it actually feels like it has a purpose, which I'm glad they did because uh, it's like trying to you can still see that it's taking from the previous TARDISes, and it's not just completely throwing those TARDISes out the window and doing its own thing. Although it is, it's grabbing from both the first Doctors all the way through to um, the Sixth Doctor, and it's grabbing the Eighth Doctor, and it's just combining all of these things, different little things, and it also adds its own. So yeah, I've talked a really long time about this TARDIS, but that's just because of how much I like this TARDIS. It's probably it's even, you might say, like, it's the nostalgia factor that makes um you want to choose your childhood TARDIS. But I started off with the fourth Doctor and then the 10th Doctor and now the 11th Doctor. So this one is definitely, I mean, I don't know. A lot of people hate this TARDIS, and I don't know why, because me and my friends, we all agree that that the 11th Doctor's is the best. If someone wants to like sum up why they don't like this TARDIS, I would be interested to hear, because I've heard nothing but praise from the rest of the people that I hang around with. We all just collectively agree. It's not like, oh, you like the 11th Doctor's TARDIS, right? Okay, good. You better. It's not like that. But yeah, so that's my thoughts on the um, all the TARDIS consoles. My least favorite, two favorite. Um, I'm pretty sure I covered all of them. Oh, wait, I didn't cover one last one. Ah, darn. Well, you know what? It wasn't really prominently featured, but I guess I can talk about the wooden TARDIS, the Fourth Doctor's wooden TARDIS. Um, I guess it's okay, sort of. I like the church aesthetic a little bit. It's just a bit weird. I don't know. I think, all right, that's my opinion on that, but it's just a bit weird looking, in my opinion. You might think the 11th Doctor's looks weird, but I don't know. Just compared to all the classic TARDISes, it really just stands out and looks weird. Because like the TARDIS isn't supposed to be like a church. It's a time machine. So okay. Well, that's my okay, now that's my opinion on all the TARDIS consoles. If I missed one, you can point it out in the comments. I don't know what I'll do. Maybe I can make like a real mini video just for you about that one TARDIS. Maybe I could cover all the Masters TARDISes, but he really hasn't. Also, I'm not covering the 13th Doctor's TARDIS because I don't want to spoil what it looks like. I hope they do like a little reveal like they did with the in the 11th hour, where they're like, whoa, you know. Um, so yeah, that's what I'm hoping for. Luckily, I haven't seen it at all, so I have no. So if I do make a video on it, I have no. I haven't like. It's just my initial opinion right out there. So that's the end of this video. Um, if you like it, you can say so. If you don't like it, you can definitely say so, because I'm open to criticism and other people's opinions. So yeah, that's it. See ya.